Hello, my name is Adrian Vale, and I'm 58 years old. I've spent the better part of 3 decades walking through this world, not always with purpose, not always with direction, but always with attention. And today, I want to talk to you about something that might sound absurd, perhaps even offensive in our current age: the art of wasting time. Now I can already hear the objections forming in your mind. Wasting time? Adrian, don't you know there are goals to achieve, dreams to pursue, empires to build? Yes, I know. I know because I've heard this sermon preached from every corner of our modern existence. Productivity, optimization, hustle. These are the new gods we bow to, the new scriptures we recite each morning as we reach for our phones before we've even fully opened our eyes. But let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a cloud? Not glanced at it. Not photographed it for your social media feed, but truly watched it drift across the sky with no agenda, no destination, no quarterly targets to meet. A cloud doesn't try to be a cloud. It doesn't wake up in the morning with a 5-year plan. It doesn't read books about the 7 habits of highly effective clouds or attend seminars on cloud productivity hacks. It simply is. It drifts. It changes shape. It exists in a state of pure, unapologetic being. And here's what strikes me as I've grown older. The cloud is not wasting time. The cloud is being exactly what it is meant to be, doing exactly what it is meant to do, which paradoxically looks a lot like doing nothing at all. We live in an age of unprecedented anxiety. We've built a civilization that measures human worth in outputs, in metrics, in the quantifiable residue of our existence. How many emails did you send today? How many steps did you take? How many hours did you work? How much closer are you to your goals than you were yesterday? I remember a conversation I had in Tokyo about 7 years ago. I was sitting in a small tea house, one of those places that feels like it exists outside of time, and I met a businessman. He was younger than me, maybe 40, impeccably dressed, expensive watch catching the light every time he moved his wrist. We started talking, and he told me about his life. He woke at 5 every morning, gym by 5:30, shower, breakfast, optimized for maximum nutrition and minimum time by 6:30, work by 7, meetings, calls, decisions, strategies, lunch at his desk, more work, home by 9 if he was lucky, dinner, an hour with his family maybe, then emails until midnight, sleep, repeat. When do you rest? I asked him. He looked at me with genuine confusion. I rest when I sleep, he said. No, I said. When do you do nothing? He laughed. Adrian-san, I don't have time to do nothing. And there it was, the great confession of our age. We don't have time to do nothing, as if doing nothing were an activity that required time to be allocated to it, scheduled, optimized, as if the absence of doing were itself a kind of doing. But here's what that businessman didn't understand, what our entire culture seems to have forgotten. You are not a machine. You did not come into this world to produce. You came into this world to be. Think about a cat. Have you ever watched a cat lying in a patch of sunlight? The cat doesn't think, I should be doing something productive right now. I should be catching mice or learning new skills or working on my personal brand. The cat simply lies there, soaking in the warmth, existing in a state of pure, undiluted presence. Is the cat wasting time? Or is the cat doing exactly what a living being is supposed to do, experiencing the miracle of being alive? We've created a world where the cat's wisdom looks like laziness, where doing nothing is seen as a moral failing, where rest is something you have to earn, justify, apologize for. Let me tell you what I think idleness really is. It's not laziness, it's not apathy, it's not giving up or checking out or failing to reach your potential. Idleness, true idleness, is an act of rebellion. It's a rebellion against a system that wants to commodify every moment of your existence. It's a rebellion against the idea that your worth is determined by your output. It's a rebellion against the notion that life is a problem to be solved rather than an experience to be lived. When you sit and do nothing, when you waste time deliberately and without guilt, you are making a radical statement. You are saying, I am not a resource to be extracted. I am not a machine to be optimized. I am a human being. And human beings need space to simply exist. I spent 6 months in a small village in Greece once, years ago. The pace of life there was something my Western mind initially couldn't comprehend. People would sit in cafes for hours, just talking or not talking. They would stare at the sea. They would take walks with no destination. At first, I felt anxious. Shouldn't I be doing something? Shouldn't I be productive? But slowly something in me began to shift. I started to notice things I had never noticed before. The way light changes throughout the day, the patterns of bird flight, the subtle variations in the color of the water, the texture of time itself. And I realized this is what I had been missing. Not information, not achievement, not progress, but presence. The simple, profound experience of being here, now, alive. There's a beautiful paradox at the heart of idleness. When you stop trying to be productive, when you stop trying to optimize and improve and achieve, something unexpected happens. You start to see clearly. You start to hear the quiet voice inside you that gets drowned out by all the noise of constant doing. You didn't come into this world to make yourself. You came to discover yourself. And discovery requires space. It requires silence. It requires time that looks, from the outside, like it's being wasted. Have you ever sat in a quiet room and watched dust particles dance in a beam of sunlight? I did this yesterday. I was sitting in my study, and the afternoon light came through the window at just the right angle, and there they were, thousands of tiny particles, floating, spinning, drifting in patterns that seemed both random and choreographed. I watched them for maybe 20 minutes. I didn't think about anything in particular. I didn't solve any problems. I didn't have any profound insights. I just watched. Was I wasting time? By the standards of our productivity-obsessed culture, absolutely. I could have been answering emails. I could have been working on my next project. I could have been doing something, anything, that would count as productive. But here's what I've learned in my 58 years. Those 20 minutes of watching dust dance in the light were not wasted. They were, in fact, some of the most important minutes of my day. Because in those minutes, I wasn't trying to be anything other than what I am. I wasn't performing. I wasn't achieving. I wasn't even thinking about who I should be or what I should do. I was simply present, simply aware, simply alive. And in that state of pure presence, anything happens. You reconnect with something fundamental, something we've lost in our frenzy of constant doing. You reconnect with the simple fact of your existence. Let me tell you what I think we're really afraid of when we're afraid of wasting time. We're afraid of ourselves. We're afraid of what we might discover if we stop running, stop doing, stop filling every moment with activity and noise and distraction. We're afraid that if we sit still long enough, we might realize that the life we're living isn't the life we want. We're afraid we might hear the quiet voice inside us that's been trying to speak for years but can't get a word in edgewise because we're too busy being productive. So we keep moving, we keep doing, we keep ourselves so busy that we never have to face the fundamental questions. Who am I? What do I really want? What does it mean to be alive? But these questions, these are the important questions. These are the questions that matter. And you can't answer them while you're optimizing your morning routine or hustling toward your next goal. You can only answer them in the space between doing, in the gaps, in the moments that look, from the outside, like wasted time. Nature doesn't waste time because nature doesn't have a concept of wasted time. A tree doesn't worry about whether it's being productive enough. A river doesn't feel guilty about meandering instead of taking the most efficient route to the sea. I was hiking in the mountains of Scotland last autumn, and I came across a stream. It was flowing downhill, as streams do, but it wasn't in any hurry. It curved around rocks, pooled in little eddies, wandered left and right. If that stream were a human in our modern world, someone would tell it to optimize its route, to flow more efficiently, to stop wasting time with all those unnecessary curves. But those curves, those pools, those meanders, they're not inefficiencies. They're the stream being a stream. They're the stream expressing its nature, responding to the landscape, existing in relationship with the world around it. You are like that stream. You are not meant to be a straight line from birth to death, optimized for maximum productivity. You are meant to meander, to pool, to curve around obstacles, to respond to the landscape of your life. I think we've forgotten something crucial. We are not separate from nature. We are nature. We are animals, biological beings, part of the same web of life as the clouds and the cats and the streams. And yet we've created a civilization that treats us as if we're machines, as if we're supposed to run on schedules and metrics and quarterly reviews. But your body knows better. Your body knows that you need rest, that you need space, that you need time to do nothing. That's why, when you finally stop and sit still, you feel that deep exhale, that sense of coming home to yourself. Your body is trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you that you're not a machine. You're a living being, and living beings need more than productivity. They need presence. They need peace. They need time that serves no purpose other than the purpose of being alive. So how do we do this? How do we practice the art of wasting time in a world that tells us every moment must be optimized, every hour must be accounted for? It starts with permission. You have to give yourself permission to be unproductive. And this is harder than it sounds, because we've internalized the voice of productivity so deeply that it feels like our own voice. When you sit down to do nothing, that voice will start immediately. You should be working. You should be improving yourself. You're wasting time. But here's what I want you to understand. That voice is not you. That voice is the culture speaking through you. It's the accumulated weight of 1,000 messages telling you that your worth is measured by your output. You have to learn to recognize that voice, and then you have to learn to gently ignore it. Start small. Give yourself 10 minutes a day to do absolutely nothing. Not meditation, that's still doing something. Not relaxation exercises, those have a purpose. Just nothing. Sit and watch the world. Lie on the grass and look at the sky. Stand at your window and observe the street below. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will race. You'll think of all the things you should be doing. That's normal. That's the addiction to productivity going through withdrawal. But if you stick with it, something will shift. You'll start to notice things, the quality of light, the sound of wind, the feeling of your own breath. You'll start to remember what it feels like to simply be, without agenda, without purpose, without the need to justify your existence through achievement. I'm not saying you should never be productive. I'm not advocating for a life of complete idleness. I'm saying that we've lost the balance. We've made productivity into a god, and we've forgotten that there's another way of being, a way that's just as important, maybe more important. Because here's the truth, the most important things in life, love, joy, wonder, connection, meaning, these don't come from productivity. They come from presence. They come from the moments when you're not trying to be anything or do anything. They come from the spaces between doing. I said at the beginning that idleness is a return to your nature. Let me explain what I mean by that. You were born knowing how to waste time. Watch a child, a very young child, before the world has taught them about productivity. They can spend an hour examining a leaf. They can lie on their back and watch clouds drift by. They can sit in the bath and pour water from one cup to another, over and over, for no reason other than the simple pleasure of it. Children are natural masters of wasting time. They don't need to be taught how to be present, how to find joy in simple things, how to exist without purpose. They know this instinctively. But then we educate them, we socialize them, we teach them that time is money, that idle hands are the devil's workshop, that they need to be productive, to achieve, to make something of themselves. And slowly, gradually, we train them out of their natural wisdom. We train them to be anxious, to be busy, to measure their worth by their accomplishments. We train them to forget how to waste time. What I'm suggesting is that we need to remember. We need to return to that original wisdom, that natural state of being that we knew before the world taught us to be productive. This isn't regression. It's not about becoming childish. It's about reclaiming something essential that we lost along the way. It's about integrating the wisdom of the child with the experience of the adult. It's about being sophisticated enough to understand that doing nothing is not the same as being nothing. I think about the indigenous cultures I've encountered in my travels. Many of them have a completely different relationship with time than we do in the industrialized world. They have time for sitting, for talking, for being together without agenda. They have time for ceremony, for ritual, for activities that serve no productive purpose but are essential to the fabric of life. We look at these cultures and we think they're primitive, inefficient, unproductive. But maybe they've preserved something we've lost. Maybe they understand something about being human that we've forgotten in our rush to optimize everything. Let me go deeper now. Let me tell you what I think is really at stake here. When you waste time, when you sit and do nothing, when you allow yourself to simply be, you're not just rebelling against productivity culture. You're not just taking a break from the hustle. You're doing something much more profound. You're remembering who you are, not who you've been told you should be, not who you're trying to become, but who you actually are underneath all the doing, underneath all the striving, underneath all the roles and identities and achievements. There's a you that exists before all of that. A you that's not defined by your job title or your accomplishments or your productivity. A you that simply is. And that you, that essential, fundamental you, can only be discovered in stillness. It can only be found in the spaces where you're not trying to be anything or do anything. It can only be known when you stop performing, stop achieving, stop producing. This is what the mystics and sages have been trying to tell us for thousands of years. This is what meditation is really about. This is what contemplation is for. Not to make you more productive or more successful or more enlightened, but to help you remember what you are underneath all of that. You are not what you do. You are not your achievements. You are not your productivity. You are the awareness that witnesses all of that. You are the space in which all of that happens. And you can't know that space if you're constantly filling it with activity. You can't hear the silence if you never stop making noise. So when I talk about wasting time, I'm really talking about something sacred. I'm talking about the practice of returning to yourself, of remembering your true nature, of reconnecting with the fundamental mystery of being alive. So here's my invitation to you. Waste some time today, deliberately, consciously, without guilt or apology. Sit and watch the clouds, lie on the grass, stare at the wall, watch dust dance in sunlight, listen to the rain, feel the wind on your face, do nothing, produce nothing, achieve nothing. And in that nothing, in that space of pure being, see what you discover. You might discover boredom at first. That's okay. Boredom is just the withdrawal symptom of your addiction to stimulation. Sit with it. It will pass. You might discover anxiety. That's okay too. Anxiety is just the voice of productivity culture panicking because you're not being productive. Acknowledge it. Let it be. It will settle. And then, if you sit long enough, if you're patient enough, you might discover something else. You might discover peace. You might discover presence. You might discover a quality of being that you'd forgotten existed. You might remember what it feels like to be alive, not as a productive unit, not as a human doing, but as a human being. This is not a luxury. This is not something you do when you have time left over after all the important things are done. This is the important thing. This is the practice that makes everything else meaningful. Because what's the point of all your achievements if you're never present to enjoy them? What's the point of all your productivity if you've lost touch with the reason you're alive? You didn't come into this world to make something of yourself. You came into this world to be yourself. And being yourself requires time. Time that looks, from the outside, like it's being wasted. I'm 58 years old now. I've traveled the world. I've achieved things. I've been productive. I've made my mark, such as it is. But you want to know what I remember most, what I treasure most. It's not the achievements. It's not the productivity. It's the moments when I did nothing. It's the afternoon I spent watching clouds in New Mexico. It's the morning I sat by a river in Vietnam and just listened. It's the evening I lay on a rooftop in Morocco and watched the stars come out. Those moments, those wasted moments, Those are the moments when I was most alive. Those are the moments when I was most myself. And as I get older, I understand more and more that those weren't wasted moments at all. They were the moments that mattered. They were the moments when I stopped trying to be something and simply allowed myself to be. So waste some time today. Waste some time tomorrow. Make it a practice. Make it a rebellion. Make it a return to your true nature. Be like the cloud that doesn't try to be a cloud. Be like the cat that simply soaks in the sun. Be like the dust that dances in the light. You don't need to make yourself. You don't need to produce yourself. You don't need to achieve yourself into existence. You already exist. You're already here. You're already enough. All you need to do is remember that. And remembering requires time. Time to sit, time to be, time to waste. This is Adrian Vale. Thank you for wasting your time with me today.